Hi and welcome to Budget Model Railways, and today we're back with the shelf challenge, the shelf layout challenge. So some of you will remember this. These are floating shelves. They're available from places like Home Bargains and Wickes for around £3, £4, £5. And it's go back to the early videos. It's a challenge I set myself, and I've built a couple of layouts. One is my favourite layout over the back there. Very simplistic, minimalist shunting layout. And I've also built a double O shunting one. But one of the things I wanted to do was to see if it was possible to build an oval layout in the same challenge. And the answer is yes, it is. And I can't remember I featured this in a video, but it's about to have a new life for a second reason, which I'll come to in a minute. Excuse me. Sorry, choking there a little bit. So as I say, it's a challenge. These are purpose-built shelves, floating shelves, 60 centimetres by 23 centimetres. And I set a challenge, go back through the earlier videos, have a look on the website, got to have a point, and so on. Nearly everyone I've seen is a shunting layout. But I like the idea of seeing trains go around. Now this is obviously very narrow. The track radius, in fact, to centres is only some 21 centimetres. Now actually that's smaller than the smallest Kato that they do, which is tram, and but this will still go round. The Kato line stuff will still go round. So at the moment I've got a freight train going around behind the steeple cab. Yes, you do need to pick your wagons a little bit carefully. They have to be very free running, and they have to, have to obviously watch coupling lock and that sort of thing. But I can get 3 or 4 wagons round there, so I can run a little goods train, not a problem, and the goods train can live in there. Now I've also then got the ability to run 2 other locos, so you've got a lot of operating potential on this layout. Now this is the steam train that Kato make, but what I've discovered is I get buffer lock from these running around such small curbs. Now you can actually take the buffers off. Oh, that's decided to stop always, of course, because I've started filming. You can take the buffers off, but for the moment I've got a little brake van there that works quite well. And if you're not familiar with these, the motor is actually in the coach there. It's quite funny. You can just watch the coach go around on its own. So I can also run a steam train, and then that can go back into the siding. And I can also run one of the trams round for another bit of a passenger train. So for what is really a very small layout, and I'll come to the track in a minute, which is why I'm having problems with it, I can run 3 different locos, or consists if you like, on here. Now, what's got me interested is I've also started thinking again about taking a model railway to exhibitions on a motorbike. I like the novelty of it, and also it would mean that the days that I want to do 2-day exhibitions and things like that, rather than my wife not having the car for the weekend, I'm often doing what I enjoy. She's stuck at home with no car, and it would be easier for me to come and go just using the motorbike. Now I don't any longer have a motorbike with hard luggage. I've got soft luggage, so I've got a couple of options here. Now one, strange enough, was that I could, for instance, use that layout, and I've also got this layout. Now this is fractionally shorter and slightly wider than the challenge, but it would still make quite a nice layout. So initially I was thinking about using one of those 2 layouts. This one wouldn't need a great deal of work. It's got a hard back seam. It would just need some thought, particularly on things like the switches. Because what I've got on my motorbike, I've got 2 options. One is to make 2 halves of a layout that would fit vertically in each of the saddlebags. Now that would give me roughly the same, it would give me a slightly wider layout, getting out in fact towards nearly 30 centimetres. And I could get 2 40 centimetre blocks in, but I would only get 12 centimetres of height. Now the other option is to build something in a box that will sit on the pillion and can be bungeed on. And that's really where we're coming with these layouts. Now, the advantage of the oval over the shunting layout is I don't need a separate fiddle yard. So this could be made fairly robustly. I've got some ideas to use some thicker timber at each end, which I could then screw a front, a top and a back to. And what I could also do with this layout is, rather than have the classic oval, is to put a small back scene in. So this becomes the fiddle yard for a through station which is scenic. And I quite like the idea of doing that. What I also like about this layout is it's an operational layout. Obviously, lots of people do very small N-gauge layouts in cases and things and box files, and I'm not knocking that at all, but they are to some degree novelty layouts. They're not operational. The advantage of this one is I can run 3 different consists on it. So I could almost run a timetable, but I could certainly alternate the trains that are running, but I would copy this, if you like, the style of that one. Very minimalist, very simple, that would enable me then to have a simple back scene, maybe a couple of buildings, a small halt, a goods yard, and run trains through. So that's really why this has come to life again. So it would also, of course, tick the box of being the shelf challenge, which would enable me to promote the shelf challenge at exhibitions and things. In the long run, I've got the idea, we toyed with it for something, and also Adrian at East Grinstead, where we might in the future, probably end of 26, perhaps 27, is try and run a little side exhibition somewhere of the shelf challenge, shelf layout challenges. But that's a bit in the future. But it would be quite good to be able to take this little layout. The advantage of N is, of course, the stock doesn't take a great deal of room to transport. The Kato stuff all comes in really good transportable boxes anyway. And you don't need a great deal of stock. That's another of my bugbears at exhibitions. People take their entire collection and then spend all day wondering what to run. In fact, most people only talk to you for about 10 minutes. And in fact, I could alternate 3 different things while I'm talking. And I would merely need to take perhaps 1 spare loco and a few spare coaches. Rolling stock, I never really see the point. It's not going to break. Once you've practiced beforehand and you realise it runs, you're away basically. It's just having a spare loco, I guess, in case something decides to stop working. And interestingly, despite all the old wive tales we were told when we started exhibiting, in fact, if you run a loco for all day, it doesn't burn out, blow up, melt, or any of the other things we were told. It will actually run all day quite happily. So this has got my interest at the moment. So we'll see where we go with that. So I know quite a few people have picked up the shelf challenge. Thank you very much. We do try and update it as often as we can, but Doug is my IT guy. He's very busy with his uni placement at the moment. So please bear with us if you send photos in and they don't get uploaded straight away. They will at some point go on there. It's a good-natured challenge. There's no prizes. It's simply to encourage people to have a go. And what I'm hoping is that this will show, look, it can be done on an oval. I have ordered some of the very narrow curve Kato stuff, and that will be perhaps for another option, which will be the 2 components in the saddlebags. So I might well make 2 layouts to exhibit, and then I can choose which I take. But this one at the moment's got my interest. I did mention the track. It was ballasted. It is quite sharp curves. It's taken a lot of cleaning to get this track to run smoothly, which is my, if you like, pet hate on ballasted track. Particularly on short curves, narrow wheelbase, you really need to make sure all the inside edges are clean, which to some degree negates painting it, because you end up scraping a lot of the paint off. But it has taken quite a lot of work to get it to run properly. I had trouble with one of the points. Took a while. Turned out to be a dodgy fish plate. I am using second-hand track, obviously. What else would I use? And I accept that occasionally you're going to have to change things like fish plates. This really didn't cost me very much to build. The shelves, like I say, are about £5. The 3 points I already had, they cost me about £5 each. And the Flexi track, my wife bought a huge box for me of Flexi track from our local amenity tip shop for about £5, and it was a nearly full box. The only problem with it is it's the sleepers, I think it's quite old stuff, are shallower than set track, and you get a step down when you switch from set track to sleeper track, so that I've got to play with. Track's still got to be weathered a bit, and then I can have fun doing the scenery. But there you go. So shelf challenge layout, and you can do an oval in N. No way you could do an oval in 00. The smallest I ever got 00 was about 6.5 inches. So you'd need double this. But you can do it in N. It'd be very interesting to see somebody do a layout challenge in Z or T. It'd be quite interesting. So there we go. I'm really quite surprised about how much I've managed to get into such a small space, and we'll see how it progresses. So thank you as always for your interest in what I do. Went to the Newhaven Model Railway Club show at the weekend at Seaford. Some really interesting layouts there as well, including a really nice minimalist one. Yes, thank you as always for watching, and I'll update you on this as it moves forward.